All right, on to our last story for the day. Pretty big deal, man. Pretty big deal. Clubhouse is valued at $1 billion. So let's break down Clubhouse. I want this to be a good video for people who don't know what Clubhouse is. I want you to get a good understanding after you've watched this video to fully sort of recognize and get your head wrapped around what Clubhouse truly is, what its potential is to be in the social media space, at least from my perspective, and what problems I think it may have going into the future, but really what opportunities I think ultimately exist. So first thing, Clubhouse is basically Instagram Live for audio. That's how I've been describing it to people. Okay, I got on Clubhouse a couple months ago and I used it. Haven't been using it too much on my day-to-day. It's not part of my day-to-day, and I'll explain why I think it's not part of my day-to-day in a little bit. But it's basically live chat rooms, right? They had this in the 80s where you could just call into like live chat rooms. It's just now in the digital age, it's been branded in such a unique way, and the content creators that they've given the platform to, because it was exclusive for the first year and a half, have created really interesting discussions on the platform that has allowed more people to hop into it and check out what it really is. Essentially, you go through the application, you click on a room, and you can listen into the application. You can raise your hand if you are in the audience, and one of the speakers who are kind of like on this virtual panel to some extent would allow you to speak or ask a question, or you just listen in the audience and you get to enjoy the conversation. What are the benefits of this? It's really like real life phone calls, right? So imagine that you are listening to like two people who are from Silicon Valley. Let's say there's some venture capitalists. These are people who give out a lot of money to companies, just having a casual conversation about what they want to see in a young entrepreneur in order to invest in. And let's say you have a company idea. You being able to tap into that conversation is so beneficial, so important, such a unique aspect of the application, because that type of content, and again, right now, content is king, right? Which companies, what platforms, what media entities are offering the most valuable and efficient and productive content for your life? That type of content is really productive. It's valuable because you don't get to have that conversation anywhere else other than being on Clubhouse if those two people are speaking on Clubhouse. But B, it's more natural. It's not like a recorded podcast that you know is going to be broadcasted to millions of people. It's not, some video interview like 60 Minutes on CBS that's very professional and cut and all this stuff. It's you both are on this app and you're just talking. And anyone can come into your room and just listen to people talk. That I think is what the main benefit of it is. People are recognizing that they can access virtual and unique conversations at a scale at which they haven't been able to access before. And the more people they follow and the more people that the app ultimately attracts, the more conversations and energy they can get into. This is really important because right now we are seeing the evolution of people wanting long-form conversation. Like if 2020 has showed me anything, and I think Clubhouse exploded in 2020 for the same reason TikTok exploded in 2020. People aren't able to go to live conferences and panels and pay thousands of dollars for tickets at South by Southwest, so they can just go onto this application that has provided the technological infrastructure to people to host those types of same conferences and panels and just listen in. And the type of convenience and productivity that is allowed for people, because it is an audio only thing, they don't have to go fly and go leave their home and go buy plane tickets and hotel and all that stuff. They can just put in their AirPods and go work out and still get access to that content, is unbelievably valuable. And obviously because of COVID, everything got shut down. So where are you going to go to get that type of content? Clubhouse has emerged as the sort of highway for you to go and listen and consume that type of content. I think that's a big reason why it's winning, and I think that's one of the big main reasons why it's been able to have a lot of success. The other reason that I think it's really important, and then we're going to get into sort of its $1 billion valuation and what I think, or why I think it's valued at $1 billion, is that Clubhouse provides a unique networking opportunity for people who are trying to build their followings right now. Like right now, going direct to consumer is everything. Right? The difference between YouTube and Clubhouse is like YouTube, this video is going to live forever on YouTube in perpetuity, right? Thousands of years from now, hopefully, this video is going to be on YouTube. I'm not going to be here because I'm probably going to be either all the way up there or all the way down there, probably all the way down there. But the point is, YouTube has your video in perpetuity, right? That's valuable content for YouTube. Clubhouse, the conversation is live. So if you have, 1,000 followers on Clubhouse, you can engage them immediately by telling them, hey guys, I'm going live at 8 p.m. and then have a conversation that's hopefully beneficial or unique enough for them to care about your content. From a monetization perspective, that content can be monetized not through advertising, which is how all the other companies sort of monetize their content, but by just charging people a ticket to get into the room, right? So if you have 50,000 followers and you're holding an event and you're talking with some famous entrepreneur or something, and you put a gateway to that conversation at $2 a pop, I mean, imagine having 50,000 people, 20,000 of them pay that $2 because it's $2, like it's nothing. 40,000 people have access. You've just made $40,000. 20,000 people of influence. You have influence on 20,000 people in that moment, in that 1 hour conversation or Zoom panel or whatever it may be. Not Zoom, but like Clubhouse panel. And Clubhouse takes a 10% cut. I mean, that's a business model that's very, very easily sort of understandable without having to bring in a lot of advertising into the actual rooms or the actual content. That's where I see Clubhouse as a unique opportunity for individual people to build their following. And that leads me into where I think the $1 billion valuation comes from. Andreessen and Horowitz, I'm definitely saying it wrong. Andreessen and Horowitz, that's how you say it, is a super big multi-venture conglomerate in the Silicon Valley tech startup space. They've invested in everybody. Anybody who's anybody has likely gotten, some seed money from them. And they valued Clubhouse at $1 billion, and some other investors came in. And I think it's because they're recognizing, like, Clubhouse is 2 million users right now. If Clubhouse gets to 50 million users, and let's say 10 million of them are going live daily, and out of those 10 million, 1 million of them are hosting a paid daily talk, the amount of commission that Clubhouse is making is exponential. I mean, and 10 million users is nothing. Like, imagine to the point where they get 500 million users. You have 500 million people using this application. You have, hundreds of millions of them going live every day, having these conversations, and tens of millions of those hundreds of millions are charging for paid events. And I mean, they're just making a little tiny toll off all of these things that are going live because they're providing the technology to do that. That's very valuable for a company. And I think that's where you get the $1 billion valuation. People are kind of freaking out, like, how is Clubhouse valued at $1 billion? I mean, like, that's the answer. That's how it's valued at $1 billion. It is basically Instagram Live for audio. It has allowed people to have allowed them to engage their following on live audio, which is, again, more productive because they can do other things while still consuming the content. They don't have to stare at someone talking. They can just get the content and even pay to get the content if it's valuable enough. And Clubhouse just has to take a little bit of a toll and commission. And that's how you get to $1 billion. I probably think it's going to, surpass more than billions of dollars as long as the brand stays good within the next couple of years. Here's the sort of question I have for Clubhouse, right? The audio is not cataloged. Meaning, like, when you do a live talk, it's as of now, it's not being saved in Clubhouse in and of itself, right? And it's not sort of living there forever. And I think if they try to make it live forever, that would provide a couple of hurdles. That would provide a lot more just operating costs because now you have to host all that content and that data, on your servers. And maybe that's not the most crazy expense in the world, but nonetheless, it would be there. But B, that takes away from the sort of appeal of that it's live, right? Because if I can go listen to it later, then there's no necessity for me to leave what I'm doing right now and go to the app and be, a loyal consumer of the app. There's no reason I have to come for a show that's being held every day. Let's say if they start paying original content creators to host a talk every day or something, or like a little interview every day. Why would I go there if I know I'll be able to catch it later? At that point, it just becomes a podcast that I can listen to on my own time. And how many of us are consistently listening to podcasts on our own time at the rate at which some of these podcast companies would want us to do that? Like, podcast is exponentially growing, but when something's live, your attention is there and it's immediate. You can be sold something, you can eventually pay to get into something, and you just have more affinity for what's happening because it's happening real time and live. Most of the podcasts that you consume likely are the podcasts you love. Like, if you're a Joe Rogan fan, every day you're going to tune into Joe Rogan. If Clubhouse wants it to be, if you're a Clubhouse fan, if you're a fan of the app, just like you're a fan of Instagram, you show up every day because the only way they make money is if you show up every day. So if they create a model in which you can't show up every day because the audio is cataloged into, later times when you can listen to it later, you're likely going to not go there given all the other choices you have for content, especially if you're laying down, because audio is something that you're usually doing on the go. And usually if you're laying down, Netflix and YouTube is already there, so you need something visual to stimulate you. The reason I bring that up is because if the audio is not cataloged, that's one of the problems I see for Clubhouse. It's like, as a content creator, if my stuff doesn't live there forever, I'm not sure how completely valuable that is for me. Now, it's still extremely valuable for me to go live and be able to have a conversation and engage my audience and stuff like that. And I don't think they need to catalog the content. That's just one thing I was thinking about in terms of you put in a lot of work and have a great conversation, usually you want that to live forever. Now, nonetheless, you can probably just record the conversation and upload it as a podcast, right? Because if I'm the creator, as long as I get consent from the other people who are on my panel that we can, record this content, then I could just record the call and then I can upload it later as a podcast episode, and then it can be distributed in that realm. So it's not the biggest concern in the world, but it is something I was thinking about in terms of how they are thinking about audio being sort of stored in their data and in their servers and overall in their ecosystem to get people to care. But overall, man, this club in a house costs $1 billion to get into. Like, Clubhouse is worth $1 billion, and it is fundamentally taken up a lot of attention. Elon Musk recently went on Clubhouse and crashed their servers, right? People were hosting other rooms just to listen to the Elon Musk room because it was capped at like 5,000 people. So it is starting to get, and that's the point I want to get across here, brand equity and brand affinity. And when a company starts to get brand equity and brand affinity, it starts to become synonymous with certain things. Twitter is trying to compete with it. I don't think that's going to work because people don't go to Twitter to get into like live audio spaces. People go to Twitter to see 280 characters of the latest thing that's going on, and they want to consume thousands of those within minutes, right? I don't think you're looking for a live conversation on Twitter. Now, could they still compete? Yeah. Could they still get a lot of attention? Yeah, because Twitter already has so many, millions of people. They can just offer them a new product and be like, hey, use this. But I think when you're building a brand, and when you're building something that's synonymous with a certain idea, then that's a really important thing to protect. And, they've done a really strong job, I think, Clubhouse, of trying to build this mission to have authentic conversations that normal platforms like Twitter or Facebook just don't allow because it's all text oriented. And Clubhouse has made a pretty strong statement that they're just not planning to go visual. They don't want the visual elements of it because you don't need it. You don't need text. You don't need comments. You just need live, authentic conversations. So that's what Clubhouse is. I think it's definitely going to live up to its $1 billion hype. There are some other audio tech startups in the audio space. I have one as well as I end this show. So if you guys want to check that out, the link is in the description. Every show of the Make It Courageous Show, every clip of the Make It Courageous Show is sponsored by Audia, my tech startup. So if you want to check that out, definitely go check it out. I made this show literally to sponsor the show with my startup every single day that I host the show. So if you're interested at all, please go check that out.